everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R chat for Sunday, February 26th. It was really nice to see Billy and Victoria take back charge of their life this week. It was starting to seem like their desire to have a child and to raise a child together was overshadowing their better judgment. They had let these strangers into their home, Anita and Chelsea. They had let Anita and Chelsea control their lives. Every single movement for them over the past several weeks has been about appeasing Anita and Chelsea. And it was because Anita decided to reveal the truth about her connection to Victor that Billy just put his foot down and said, that's enough. All Anita needed to do was confirm that she was in their lives to ruin their lives. And Billy was like, that is enough. And furthermore, I think the icing on top of this cake of ridiculousness was Anita's admission that part of her goal was not only to get money out of them, but she wanted a relationship to develop between Billy and Victoria. She actually said to Billy, you know, Victor doesn't believe that you're good enough for his daughter, but I think you're perfect for mine. And it was this pathetic plea from her, as if they've lived with Billy and Victoria for weeks and weeks. Clearly, Billy is in love with Victoria. He wants to do anything he can for her. And they still have this delusion that they're going to somehow be able to break them up. Now, while Anita is having this conversation with Billy, revealing all of her truths, at the same time, Chelsea is having a conversation with Victoria, revealing all of her truths. And her truth was that Victor not only made it worth her while to come back into Genoa City and let this baby, unleash this baby into their lives, but Victor sweetened the pot to try to get Chelsea to break up Billy and Victoria. How crushing for Victoria. I mean, she must at this point come to expect it. At this point, maybe we all must on some level come to expect it. This is so Victor-esque. The entire scheme is so Victor-esque. And both Billy and Victoria are realizing separately that there are very powerful forces working to keep them apart. And I loved Billy's conversation with Anita as she's telling him she wants him to be her son-in-law. He just looks at her and says, lady, you need to put the cuckoo back in the clock because that ain't never, ever going to happen. And it was so true. It was so true. You know, the one thing you can say, I mean, for Billy, as much of a total screw-up as he can be, I don't doubt that he loves Victoria. I think that he loves Victoria in the most capable way that he knows how. And so the notion that that was going to work is completely ridiculous. And that was the last straw for him. Suddenly, they started scrambling. They're like, you know what, we need to make something happen. And I was so glad because it was weeks and weeks of not a whole lot happening with this storyline, just more little annoyances. And finally, it was Nikki that suggested to Victoria, why don't you just move out of the house? And Billy kind of overheard this and said, you know, maybe you should move out of the house. It's not a safe environment. There was confirmation from the lips of Anita herself that they were there to cause trouble. Paul had come in also this week to confirm that they had, you know, been doing cons since Chelsea was 10 years old. They were a mother-daughter con team. It's clearly become not only an annoying situation, but it had become a dangerous situation. And both Nikki and Billy are telling Victoria that maybe it's time she should move out of the house for her own safety. And the whole time I'm thinking, why should Victoria move out? Kick these bitches out of your house. Send them to a hotel. It needed to happen, and finally that was exactly, or very close to, what Billy came up with. He decided, you know what, Chelsea has been showing some signs of remorse. She's been trying to reach out to them. She's been trying to do the right thing. She's been showing emotions and attachment toward the baby and signs of being a decent human being. However, it's Anita that is the lost cause, the giant, hideous, plastic surgery tree that the apple fell from. And Victoria and Billy just said, you know what? Get out. Chelsea's welcome to stay here in the house, but you're not. You need to go. You could see the cracks that were developing over the past couple weeks between Chelsea and Anita's relationship. So Chelsea is like, you know what? Yeah. As a matter of fact, Mom, I think you should go. So it was kind of good for everyone all around that Billy told her, look, if you can go up to the apartment and get your stuff, or I'm going to take it and throw it on the front lawn. So it's your choice. And it was just so good to finally see her walk out of the house. It was about time. Unless, my only other little reservation is, what if this is still part of Anita's plan? It seemed that she took it pretty well, that her little con wasn't working out, that she's so carefully crafted over a series of weeks and months. And it just, in the back of my mind, it's kind of nagging at me that maybe this is still part of the plan, because you have to admit that Anita coming into this scenario has made Chelsea look like a saint. It's made Chelsea look vulnerable. And so it's possible that that was kind of a decoy. I don't know. It's going to remain to be seen. But finally, Billy and Victoria are getting wise, making steps towards sealing the deal with this baby. The whole thing that they want, the entire purpose of bringing Chelsea into their home, was because their end game is to get her child. They want to raise the child for her. And, I mean, I've been kind of thinking for the last couple of weeks, you really do need to get this in writing. Chelsea's been promising them that she was going to turn the baby over, but it's something that she could easily jerk away at any moment. Finally, Billy decided to have Michael draw up some termination of parental rights papers, along with a financial agreement that they'll agree to take care of Chelsea, and a verbal agreement between them that Chelsea can be a part of the baby's life. It was a good moment. It kind of seemed too good to be true. And I don't know if it is or not, but Chelsea did sit down, sign both of the papers, although Michael did warn Billy when he was handing him the documents that these prenatal agreements are not always ironclad. I'm sure that a court could easily argue that Chelsea was under duress, or that she was not of sound mind when she signed the papers. And it does seem somewhat out of character that she would just roll over so easy. And it might just be that she's starting to have a heart. It's certainly possible. She sounds like she's kind of starting to bond with the baby. She's interested in having a place in the baby's life. I think she's gotten to know Billy. She clearly has a level of affection for him. She wants him. She is, I think, in the beginning stages of falling in love with Billy. And so it's possible that she's had a change of heart, but it's also certainly possible that this is part of a larger scheme. What do you guys think? Is it too good to be true? Well, leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think, because there's also no denying that even though Anita has been kicked out of Billy and Victoria's house, she is still very much present on the scene. She gets kicked out of the house and immediately goes to Glowworm, one of the most upscale restaurants in Genoa City. She doesn't have a dime now. Her only meal ticket has just been ripped away from her. She has no place to live, no place to go, and she decides to go schmooze it up at Glowworm. And she starts spilling her guts to Gloria, whining about her life and how they kicked her out and it's so unfair, and all she wanted was to be close to her daughter and her granddaughter. And Gloria takes pity on her. and decides to offer Anita a job. So now Anita is working at Glowworm. It's like she's like a virus or something. You just can't get away from her. She's everywhere. And she's now bussing tables. She's going to be in Billy and Victoria's face every time they go for a bite to eat. Not only that, she's going to be in Jill's face and Nikki's face. And I'm, in one way, very surprised that Billy and Victoria didn't on the spot force Gloria to fire Anita. Gloria certainly doesn't need any high-powered enemies right now, and I'm just surprised that they didn't try to pressure Gloria to fire her, but Gloria has never been one to take orders from anyone, and I think Gloria is the ultimate underdog, so maybe that's what she saw in Anita, and it sounds like Anita's gonna continue to be sticking around. And one little very interesting scene, it was so brief, and I don't entirely know what to make of it, but Anita is at Glowworm bussing tables. She takes one look at Jeff and drops everything that she's doing. Like, she drops a bunch of silverware on the floor. So there seems to be some type of connection there. I don't know what it is. Jeff, at this point, has amnesia, so whatever the connection is or was, Jeff wouldn't necessarily recognize her, but she sure as heck seemed to recognize him, and I'm really curious to know what that's going to bring into the mix. Let me know if you guys have any theories or predictions on that point. It will be interesting to know. So Victor and Genevieve's negotiation dinner made me want to puke. It absolutely made me feel ill. I was looking at the screen with this disgusted face the entire time. They were just being so rich. And, you know, talking about the expensive champagne and the expensive meal that they were having, and they were talking in French, proving that they know France, and sorry, Karen Ferguson, that was very, I'm not trying to be anti-French, but just the only time they're talking, it's like, and I'm like, it sounds so hoity-toity, and I just wanted to double slap them both across the face for being just very, what's the word for it? I don't know. They were just very holier than thou, very richer than now, and there was, I think the thing that bothered me most was that there seemed to be this almost, I mean, you guys tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I felt like there was a weird sexual energy in the room. And I hated it. I don't know if it was just on one part or another, but I do kind of think that Genevieve was a little, felt romanced by Victor. Here he's giving her all the finest of things and giving her compliments, but yet not being afraid to pull punches, mentioning things about how he knew that her relationship with Jack wouldn't have worked because she needs excitement and whatever. So I do think that Genevieve was intrigued by Victor. He's a very compelling man. If you were being wooed by Victor and all of a sudden getting everything that you wanted and just flowers and champagne and expensive meals, I mean, you would probably be a little bit taken aback too. And so but I think from Victor's point of view, it's all about beauty of nature. And if Genevieve can't see that, then I don't know that she's as sharp as we think she is. Of course, it may very well be a combination of both. She may know in her conscious mind that Victor just wants her company, but in her subconscious mind is like, I wonder if this could possibly work out. I wonder if there could be a little mustache ride in it for me. I don't know. But the whole thing just made me ill, especially knowing that the entire time this dinner meeting is going on, Nikki's at home feeling abandoned and lied to yet again. Victor lied to her to her face last week about his involvement with Chelsea and Anita. And Nikki found out about it, confronted him about it over the phone, and he was just like, look, we'll talk about it when I get home. I don't have time for this right now. As if it was no big deal. And then Victor gets home from France, and believe me, I was waiting Monday through Thursday to wait for Victor's ass to get home so that Nikki could confront him. I was waiting for that scene on Friday. It needed to happen, and I kept thinking Victor is going to be in trouble when he gets home. Not only from Nikki, but just wait till Victoria gets a hold of him. So Victor walks in, and Nikki tells him, we need to have a talk about this, Victor. And he is immediately so dismissive. Just completely dismissive, as if it was no big deal that he lied to her. Why does it not register in his brain that that's wrong? He just thinks that he can do whatever it is that he wants to do, and Nikki's just supposed to trust him. She's just supposed to go along with whatever it is because he's Victor and he knows best. And it's so wrong. It's so false. It's so disgusting. And Nikki confronted him, and I will give it to him that he did come out with the truth. He did eventually, once he got caught, tell what, as far as we know, is the full story. So Victor did not, according to him, bring Chelsea into the mix for Billy while he was in Myanmar. Billy slept with Chelsea all on his own, or Chelsea scammed Billy into sleeping with her all on their own. But whatever the situation, the sex situation with Billy and Chelsea, Victor didn't initiate it. It wasn't until Billy, went missing and Delia needed to look for a bone marrow donor that Victor went to try to find Billy, found him in Myanmar, rotting in a jail cell, and learned about what had happened with Chelsea. So at this point, Victor kind of realizes that he's going to bring Billy back into Genoa City, but only for Delia. He does not want Billy to be anywhere near Victoria, hence the whole hostage situation. And just as a little piece of security, he reaches out to Chelsea and decides that he is going to keep her number in his Rolodex just in case anything should go down wrong with his little plan. Just in case Billy decided to go against him and try to contact Victoria when he wasn't supposed to. And it was after Delia became well again, and Billy decided to stand up to Victor and get back together with Victoria, that Victor decided it was time to bring Chelsea back into the mix. And she was pregnant at that point, so bonus for Victor. So Chelsea comes back. She's just supposed to be there to, I think, twist the knife a little bit and demonstrate that Billy is this horrible, irresponsible person. And just to sweeten the pot, because Victor always has to sweeten the pot, he decided to offer Chelsea a little bit of a bonus to break Billy and Victoria up forever, which is his ultimate goal. He believes that Billy is not only a screw-up, but he's just an abbot. Just by virtue of the fact of his genetics, Victor does not want him anywhere near his daughter. And so that's the extent of Victor's involvement. And it wasn't until, it's like at every... Actually, that's not the extent of Victor's involvement. At every step along the way, every roadblock that Victor threw up, Billy and Victoria survived it. The whole keep holding Billy hostage thing, they survived it. Having Chelsea come into town pregnant, they survived it. Bringing Anita into town, they survived it. And so he decided that, yes, it was time to bring Anita. It was like he's just constantly throwing more at it. If this doesn't work, maybe this will work. And so that was when he brought Anita into town to continue to cause problems with them. So that's it. That's the story. That's what Victor did. That's the extent of his involvement. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think that it's justified? Do you think it's enough? Because Victor, is explaining all of this to Nikki. He's telling her exactly what he did. And the thing that ticked me off was that he compared what he was doing to protect Victoria with what Nikki was doing to protect Victoria when she lied to the police and said that she killed Diane Jenkins, which is not at all the same. It's not at all the same. Victor is trying to keep Victoria away from Billy by doing these kind of underhanded things. Nikki that was a self-sacrifice. She was trying to sacrifice herself for her daughter. Victor's not sacrificing himself for Victoria. He's just trying to control her life. And I want to have a balanced, I kind of do have a balanced view of the situation, and it's mostly because for some reason I always, I try to understand where Victor is coming from. I always do. He's such a compelling character, and there is a part of me that I think wants to forgive him, because Billy did abandon his wife and his daughter, and he ran off to Myanmar and got some strange woman pregnant. That is what he did. You can't get around it. Victor didn't force that. Victor didn't make that happen. The problem is that what Victor doesn't get, what he's never gotten, what he probably will never get, is that the more he meddles in Victoria's relationships, the more it draws her to whoever it is that he doesn't want her to see. If he would have stepped back from the situation, maybe Victoria would have opened her eyes about Billy on her own. You never know. I wonder if that is the case, because I do think that Billy is irresponsible, and there's a part of me that thinks that Victoria is driven to stay with him because Victor doesn't want her to. It was the exact same thing years and years ago with Ryan, her first marriage. Victor did not want Victoria to marry Ryan, and so he did everything he could to try to keep them apart, and that only made their love stronger. And here it is 15 years later, and Victor has learned not a damn thing. Not a damn thing. And this isn't those aren't the only two examples of Victor trying to control Victoria's relationship, when in fact what he really needs to be doing is focusing on his own relationship. After he explains his position to Nikki, Nikki's just, I think, worn down. I think she's just exhausted from years of dealing with Victor. It's always romantic to see them get back together, and they had their Valentine's romance, and that was wonderful, and it's so easy to get swept up in Victor's world. When he's charming, and it's hard to resist. But at the end of the day, Nikki's coming to realize that he is never going to change. If being on the verge of dying when he got Colleen's heart was not enough to change him and make him see things correctly with compassion and understanding and patience, then nothing ever is. And Nikki's, I think, also just starting to realize that it's like oil and water. Victor's never going to change. She's never going to change. She's constantly like nagging him to be this better person, to have different actions. And if you can't wear somebody down after, how long have they been together on and off? It has to, 25, probably more, around 25 years. She's been trying to mold this man into a decent human being, and it hasn't worked. So I'm looking at Nikki, seeing her exhaustion, and I'm thinking, girl, you should leave him. You should leave him. And that's what she did. She just grabbed her purse, walked out the door, and as much as I hate it, as much as I hate to admit it, it's just she did the right thing. She should have left him. Please don't, I can't get sucked in by Victor and Nikki anymore. I can't do it. I feel like Nikki. Please keep me in check. The next time they try to suck us back in with next Valentine's Day, when it's all about Victor and Nikki, please help me, because I can't do it anymore. I feel exhausted by them, and I know that Victor will find someone else. There will always be some other woman who will do what he wants, and maybe it's Genevieve. Maybe it's going to be Genevieve if she decides to take his offer to work with him as his right hand at Newman, which is a ridiculously poor deal for her. Then she's going to see firsthand that all of the romance and all of the champagne bubbles and the expensive meals start to fade away real quick when you do something that Victor doesn't like. She's going to realize that she's on the outs with him quicker than she ever expected. And there's always going to be someone else that Victor is going to be able to manipulate. But Nikki deserves so much better. And I know that she's walking out the ranch door and she's going to walk right into Jack's hospital room. She's becoming very, very close with Jack. And I don't know if I necessarily am ready to see them in a romantic relationship. I don't think we've had the build-up. I mean, certainly nothing could piss Victor off more. Nothing. That'd be the quickest way to get Victor back, would be to date Jack. But I don't think we've seen enough build-up. I mean, Nikki and Jack have a past, but they really haven't been particularly close for the past several years. They're always cordial and they have some scenes together, but they haven't been super, super close. So at this point, I don't feel like there's enough build-up for me to want Nikki and Jack to get together. But who knows? It's possible. I could get there. And at this point, Jack really, really needs to focus on his recovery, which is not happening soon enough for him. His physical therapist has him moving rubber bands with his arm, and he looks over across the room and there's a different physical therapist who has a totally different approach, who's yelling at the patient like, "You can't do this! Get down on the ground and give me 50! Like, super hardcore and almost borderline mean to the patient, but he gets results. And Jack sees this and he has this immediate gut reaction to this guy. Like, how could you treat people like that? And this guy, I'm going to call him Dr. Drill Sergeant, because that's exactly what he is. He tells Jack, you know what, you are a privileged brat, and I can see exactly straight through you. You don't know anything about my work, about my job. I get results from people. And Jack, after having his very visceral reaction to this, realizes that this is exactly what he needs to get better. He needs this gut reaction. He can use that to propel himself toward being able to walk again. And Jack forces the guy to take him on as a patient instead. And it's gonna be good. It is gonna be good. I'm looking forward to seeing Dr. Drill Sergeant work really hard with Jack and push him to the brink where he thinks he can't do it. And it's exactly what Jack needs right now. And I totally forgot that Jack was an ex-Marine. When did that happen? Do you guys know when in the storyline sequence, when in the timeline that happened? I didn't know he was an ex-Marine, or I forgot about it. Either way, I don't know when that happened. But this, it just goes to show that this is exactly the type of recovery, of physical therapy that Jack is gonna need to get through. Well, that and maybe the love of a good woman. Phyllis's dad is dying. He's in the hospital taking probably what are his final breaths. And Avery told her she really needs to go see him. And Phyllis is like, no, at first, absolutely not. I have no interest in seeing this man and rehashing this part of my life. When Nick comes in, and he kind of helps push her in that direction. And Nick recalled a time when his father, when Victor learned that his dad, Albert, was in the hospital dying, and Victor went to go see him, and that there was a level of healing that came out of that just ignoring something or putting it into the back of your mind or pretending like your past doesn't exist doesn't make it go away. And so it was this tender nudging from Nick that made Phyllis go finally to see her father. And it was really, really intense, the interaction between them. The first words that came out of this man's mouth when Phyllis walked in the room were, "What the hell are you doing here? What the hell are you doing here?" And that just says it all right there, that that's the nature of their relationship. And Phyllis did reveal this week a little bit more about what that home situation was, and it was that the dad was taking investments from people in the community, and he was using it to fund his lifestyle. He was supposed to be investing the money and making money for these other people as a financial advisor or something, I assume, and instead he was using it for himself. He was stealing from these people, and even that, Phyllis said she could have forgiven. That wouldn't have been the end of their relationship. Everybody makes mistakes, and Phyllis has pulled plenty of scams in her day. What Phyllis found to be unforgivable was the fact that she confronted him about it, and he lied to her. This is way back when I don't know, what do you guys think? She was maybe in her early 20s when this is going down, maybe her late teens, maybe late teens. And she confronts him about it, and he lies to her, which she leaves her with no choice. Phyllis feels compelled to tell the truth. All of these people, some of them who are giving this man their last dime, are going to lose their money, and Phyllis wanted to tell the truth. So it was Phyllis that ultimately turned him in. She reported him to the police, she testified against him in court, and that ripped the family apart. He always blamed her for ruining his life, and he always steadfastly claimed that he didn't do what she was claiming. And it created this really, I think, difficult dichotomy in Phyllis's mind. I think she knew what was right and what was wrong, and that what he was doing was wrong, but at the same time he's her father and she's supposed to have some sort of loyalty to him. And I think that created a real crack in her character that carried on, obviously, for years and years to come. And this confrontation finally at the end of his life was no less contentious than it's always been. Avery ended up flying back to Connecticut, where this was taking place, to listen outside the door, and it culminated in this scene where Phyllis is just yelling at him, telling him, "I need to know the truth. You've lied to me for all of these years, and I need to know the truth." And it was really wonderful. Michelle Stafford is so good. I mean, she really is. She knows how to inject emotion into a scene. At the same time, I kind of have to laugh a little because she does repeat everything that she says several times. It was, "You stole from those people. Tell me the truth. You stole from those people. Tell me the truth. I want the truth. Give me the truth. You stole from those people." It was very repetitive, but emotionally charged. Nonetheless, you've got to give her that. And she's baiting him. She's telling him, "I want the truth." I'm going to say it 100 times now just to mess with you guys. But she wants him to finally admit on his deathbed that she was right. That's all she wants to hear. And finally, she just wears him down. He's sick and he's old and he's tired and he's dying. And she just wears him down into admitting the truth or telling her what she wanted to hear. But either way, saying, "Yes, I did it. I was guilty. All those years, yes, you were right." You know, the father had turned Avery and the mother against Phyllis, making her feel like the outsider, making her feel like the villain or the victim, and in the end he's admitting that, "Yes, I did do it." And of course Avery is listening outside the door and finally learning that truth as well. So Phyllis becomes vindicated. And it's a victory followed by a loss, because while Phyllis is away visiting her father, back up a couple of steps, and Avery is busy getting Daisy out of jail forever, repleting her case. I could not believe it. I was very shocked. It seems like it's come out of nowhere. All of a sudden, Daisy's just walking around free. There was a video that has presented new evidence in Daisy's case that shed new light on whether or not she was actually culpable for what she did. And this annoys me a little bit, I have to admit, because supposedly Ryder took this video of a conversation between Sarah, the Aunt Sarah, who was forcing Daisy and Ryder to hold Lauren and Jana hostage in the abandoned zoo. Oh my god, it sounds like an episode of Scooby-Doo, doesn't it? In retrospect, it's just, that was stupid. But Ryder's taking this video where Sarah is pressuring Daisy. Daisy is objecting, saying, I don't want to torture Lauren and Jana. Can't we let them free? And Sarah is at gunpoint telling her, you're going to do exactly what I tell you to do. And it proved in the court that Daisy was doing what she was doing under duress. Now, my annoyingness with this situation is that I don't remember Daisy ever having a single ounce of remorse for what she was doing to Lauren and Jana. There's no way. It was Ryder who was starting to crack, who was starting to have second thoughts about the whole thing. Daisy was always steadfast in her evilness. She never missed a beat. So the fact that this video is now surfacing is, well, the fact that that situation happened is ridiculous, and the fact that the video is surfacing now is additionally ridiculous, because why did Ryder have this video the entire time and then let his sister go to jail anyway? They were twins, they were supposed to be best friends, and he let her rot in jail even though he had this video? That's just totally unbelievable. And I gotta tell you, I would not be one iota surprised if that video turned out to be a fake. I would not be surprised if Sarah was still alive and that video was fake just to get her out of prison. And that's exactly what she is. She is out of prison. She is walking around. She has accomplished this goal. And there was this little moment before she got released between she and Lauren where Daisy's putting on this very sweet act. It is almost sticky. I'm getting diabetes from the amount of sugar that she is forcing down all of our throats. She is just the innocent victim, and everything she did was because of Sarah, and she didn't want to. She just wants to be a good person now and a good mother. And there's this brief moment before she gets released from jail between Daisy and Lauren where Daisy breaks the facade just for a second, and only for Lauren. Only for Lauren. Phyllis has come up and bugged and gotten in Daisy's face. Michael has come up and gotten Daisy's face, and it's just for Lauren. Just because Daisy knows she can mess with Lauren, that she breaks the facade a little bit and just sticks it to Lauren, just to show her that, yeah, I am faking it, and I'm exactly as evil as I've always been, and I'm gonna get out of jail, and I'm gonna mess with your life, and I'm gonna continue to do anything that I want. And what she wants right now is her daughter. She feels entitled. She had custody taken away from her, obviously, because she went to jail, and now she wants it back. She doesn't like the fact that Phyllis is raising her daughter. I don't know if it's more that Daisy wants to raise her daughter or that she just doesn't want Phyllis or anybody else to have her, because Phyllis did kind of double-cross her. Phyllis promised to get Daisy out of jail if she would sign over custody of Lucy, and that didn't happen. Phyllis didn't help her at all and ended up with the baby instead. And now I think because of the situation we've seen with Phyllis's father and Avery, I do think it explains Phyllis's motives a little bit more, which really needed to happen. At the time when Phyllis was pushing so hard for custody of Lucy, there was this element of, why does she want this child so much? Why is she pushing so hard for this? And the fact that Phyllis had this broken family when she was growing up really, I think, lends credibility to and understanding to her actions now as to why she was fighting so hard to keep this family together now. And she is going to be so pissed when she comes back and finds out that not only Daisy's out of jail, but Daisy showed up at Phyllis's condo while she was gone. The babysitter let her in, and Daisy walks right up to the child and starts holding the child. She's just in her life, just playing mommy once again. And Phyllis is just going to be so mad when she figures that out. It's not going to be very good. What do you guys think about Daisy's motives? Do you think that she loves the child? Do you think that that she wants to be a mother now? Because Daisy did have this moment where she said, I think, actually, it was when she came on in, let herself on in to Phyllis's condo, and Daniel showed up at the door and saw her there, shockingly, saw Daisy there holding the baby, and confronted her, took the baby away from her, and they had this conversation. And I know that Daisy is lying most of the time. Almost, probably 95% of the words that come out of her lips are lies. But there was this brief little tiny moment between Daisy and Daniel where she said something like, I just want to be loved. That's all I want. I just want to be loved. Because Daniel was making the point that, you know, maybe Sarah did force you into holding Lauren and Jana hostage, but she sure didn't force you to have sex with me and to get pregnant with my baby. So why are you doing this? What is your motive? And there was just that moment where I believed her. Just as, maybe I'm getting suckered, but there was just that brief moment where I thought, Daisy has the kind of evil that kind of does seem to shout out, love me. I want attention. I just want somebody to love me. And I'm used to getting negative attention. And that's the only way that I know how to act. And so there was just this part of me that thought, you know, I just wonder if there are little bits of sensitivity under there. And I really like that in a villain. I like a good villain who is evil, but then you just see little pokes of light through, and you notice that there's a human being down in there. And I do see that with Daisy. I love Daisy. I think she, like, I don't know, I think it's the actress. She is interesting to me, and I like her particular brand of evil. I like the way she can switch from totally sweet to completely evil. And it's compelling to me. I'm glad Daisy's back. And I think that the absolute best part of all of this is the fact that it's gonna lead to more Lauren. I love Lauren. And Lauren and Michael are my favorite all-time couple on the show. I love Michael and Lauren. They are very understated. We don't see a whole lot of scenes of them. They're not one of the couples that always has problems and there's always issues in their relationship. They're stable. They're good together. They're funny. They're quirky. They have a great partnership, a great kid. Loved the scene of Michael and Fen in Glowworm this week where Michael was kind of scolding Fen. It was really funny. So I'm glad to see more Lauren on the scene, and I want to see less victim-y Lauren, because clearly everything that happened with Sheila and everything that's happening with Daisy, it's the one place where Lauren is very insecure. She's an incredible businesswoman, she's beautiful, she has her life together, and there's this one place in her psyche that has just been so bruised, so damaged, that she loses all of that self-confidence when it comes to anything having to do with Sheila and Daisy, and she's always had that victim, she's always had to play the victim role in that way. And I like the fact, I want to see now that Lauren is going to be strong. I want to know that she's over it and that she's going to fight back and fight against Daisy and reclaim her life. And I totally loved the fact that as soon as Daisy got out of jail, what did Lauren do? She went to the gun range. She put a picture of Daisy's head on I don't know what you call them, but whatever the thing she was shooting, like the decoy, no, I don't know what it is, but she put out a picture of Daisy and shot a big old hole in her head. Daniel is totally into Chloe. He just is. He is slowly but surely falling in love with Chloe. It's everything that he's doing for her has just gone way beyond friendly. I think that Daniel has seen everything Chloe has gone through with Kevin, and there's a part of him that is really still pissed off at Kevin. He saw the repercussions firsthand of what it was that happened to Chloe when Kevin ran off on his adventure. He saw how it destroyed Chloe, and Daniel felt compelled to that. As Kevin's best friend, I think Daniel wanted to step up and be a friend to Chloe, and just somewhere along the way it has snowballed into total love. He loves her. He had problems with he got all hopeful for a reunion with Lily a few months back, and I think that shows that Daniel is lonely and he wants to have someone to spend time with and to have sex with. And now that this situation is presenting itself, I think it's very clear that Daniel is wanting to be her man. Chloe is destroyed by the fact that Kevin is back in town with his new bride, and the new bride is a new pop star, and their faces are splattered over magazines everywhere, the tabloids, and Chloe is now being seen and talked about by people in town as the woman who got left at the altar, and it's making her look pathetic, it's making her feel pathetic, and so Daniel decides to help her get over this, that he's going to collect all of the magazines that he can find, and he takes her out to where, like, out into the woods, and he sets up all of the magazines and has a super soaker gun, and they shoot down the magazines, and he's got a fire going and some marshmallows, and he's trying to be sweet. He's trying to help her get over everything that Kevin has done to her. Now, the thing that I'm going to switch positions now, because while I think that's sweet, Daniel does piss me off on some level. I have never quite been as into him after he shirked his fatherly responsibilities. Sometimes babies happen, you know, and babies are innocent. Lucy didn't ask to be born. She was. It was an unfortunate situation. Daisy totally raped him. She raped Daniel, and she tried to kill him and leave him, or she bonked him over the head and left him for dead. Okay, so I understand where he's coming from, but it has always bothered me that he never stepped it up when it came to Lucy. He wanted Billy and Victoria to raise her. That was a convenient out for him, and he fought Phyllis against keeping their family together, which at this point now even especially makes more sense to me as to why she would want to do that. And so Daniel is, ever since his relationship with Amber ended, he is Mr. I don't want to have kids. I don't want to have any kids in my life. But now he's all into Chloe, who has a kid. I don't know if it's just a relationship that's catching him off guard, but Chloe and Delia are a package deal. They've been through enough. Chloe presented Kevin to Delia as being new daddy, and that all got ripped away from both of them. And it's so unfair to that child. That child's been through so much. And now with Daniel coming into the picture, if he's not willing to be there forever, ever, for Chloe and Delia, then I wish he would just back off, because neither of them need another heartbreak right now. Neither Chloe or Delia. They need some healing time, okay, Daniel? And I just don't know that he is mature enough to want to have anything to do with a child. I don't understand his mentality when it comes to his own daughter. How can he look at her and feel nothing? How can he not feel like a father? It astonishes me. How can he let Phyllis call herself mommy to Lucy? How can he stand by and let that happen? He has just put on his blinders and left the situation, like left Phyllis with the burden of the situation, and that bothers me. And don't get me wrong, because I do think it's wrong for Phyllis to call herself mommy to Lucy. It's not right. Sorry, Phyllis. I know you don't like to acknowledge how old you are, but first of all, you look amazing. And second of all, you are a grandmother. You're her grandmother. You're not her mother. And it doesn't matter if her mother is totally screwed up. It doesn't matter if her father doesn't want her. You are not the mother. And it bothers me still that Daniel is standing by and just doing nothing about all of that. I think that the most human he has been all week was that scene with Daisy and Lucy at Phyllis's condo, where he actually stood up for Lucy and was holding her and keeping her guarded away from Daisy. And I hope, for Daniel's sake, for the character of Daniel's sake, just so that I can start liking him again, I hope that this new threat that Daisy poses will help to bond him toward his child. I think that that's what I want to see, and I think that's what Phyllis wants to see. I think that's what should happen. So while Daniel is totally into Chloe, Eden is totally into Daniel, and it's not being reciprocated whatsoever. There was a totally awkward scene at Jimmy's this week where Eden thought she was going to hang out with Daniel, called him to make plans, and who walks in the door right behind Daniel but his new sidekick, Chloe. So Eden's hoping to have some private time with him, and it gets totally kiboshed. And to enjoy and observe the scene right along is Ricky. He is there baiting and pushing and prodding and pulling the entire time. He is perfectly willing to help Eden's little plan to make Daniel jealous. I mean, Eden is sort of, even though she, I think, is repelled by, repulsed by Ricky, she allows them to kind of have a little flirty moment, hoping to make Daniel jealous. And Daniel, totally oblivious, doesn't see it, doesn't care, is so focused on Chloe that he could care less what else is going on. So Ricky's making out really, really good in this situation. And now that Kevin has decided to move in with his new wife, he is leaving the apartment where he and Eden were sharing. So Eden needs a roommate. And what do you know? Who also at the same time just happens to need an apartment? Ricky. So now Eden and Ricky are going to be living together. What do you guys think of this? Are you feeling them as a couple? As you know, I have opened myself up to Ricky. I'm willing to let him in. I'm curious to know where it's gonna go, but I kind of think that he and Eden just are gonna be roomies. She set the groundwork real early that there was gonna be no hanky-panky between them, and I believe it. I believe she doesn't want to have anything to do with him. And at the same time, I don't think that he really wants her. I could be wrong, but my instinct is saying that Ricky has his sights on someone more like Abby. I think she is the unattainable for him. Daniel is the unattainable for Eden, and Abby is the unattainable for Ricky. And I'm curious to know if that is indeed where the storyline is going, because we still have that leftover element of Abby and whatever it was that her secret is regarding Diane's murder. Just before Deacon left town, he had a brief little interaction with Abby and said, "Oh, by the way, I still know what it was that you did, and I haven't forgotten about it." So Abby is still hiding something, and I just am wondering if it's possible that Ricky will become this new kind of villain in her life, find out what it is that Abby is hiding, and hold it over her blonde little perfect head. Okay, you can call me crazy, and you may very well, but I kind of liked seeing Angelina and Kevin get their new house this week. I know, I'm not supposed to, but I feel more passionate about Kevin and Angelina than I think, ever have about Kevin and Chloe. Not that there is some huge passion between Kevin and Angelina. In fact, Angelina confronted him in this week very, very gingerly and just asked him, have you ever really had any feelings for me? Has there ever been one moment where you thought, yeah, maybe? And Kevin, of course, wanted to answer that question with kid gloves. He tells her that at first he thought she was annoying, which I think we all had this, or me anyway, on my journey. I had that impression too, that she was just this annoying, dumb Jersey girl. And throughout the course of getting to know her, he realized that she's actually a really good person, an interesting person. But also, at the same time, straight up tells her, I don't feel for you the way that you feel for me. He's got his eyes on Chloe still. He's being forced into this marriage, which is exactly what she doesn't want. If she has real feelings for Kevin, the worst things you can do is continue to trap him. Years of watching soaps should teach us that. If we know nothing else, it should be that you can't force a guy into marrying you. It will never work out. He's always going to have his eyes on somebody else. But at the same time, I find myself herself kind of wishing that it would work out. Like, they've got this new house, and Angelo is becoming a total annoying menace, just in their face every 10 seconds, and it was kind of implied that he forced the previous owner of this house to get out because it's right next door to him, and he wants to be able to keep a close eye on the two little lovebirds. And yet, I just think, that the house, much like their relationship, needs some work. It doesn't have all the frills. It's somebody else's. It just doesn't feel right. But I would like to see them decorating their house together and making it into something that they both like. And I'd love to see the transformation of that house. You know, it seems like it would be symbolic of their feelings for each other. Just taking something unexpected and turning it into a home. I think I'm saving the best for last this week. I loved Sharon and Adam at the farm this week. It was wonderful. Finally, after all of the tension that's been taking place, and Adam pushing her away and pulling her clothes, pushing her away and pulling her clothes, I loved seeing them make love for the first time as a blind man. It was so good. I mean, don't forget, he may be blind, but his penis still works fine. It was a really good love scene, and the love scene, okay, this is totally bad. This is why I'm saving it for the end too, because if you have kids, just send them out of the room. Really, if you have kids, don't let them listen to me. I'm a bad influence, apparently. But, okay, the love scene had Michael Mooney, or Adam, I'm just gonna call him Adam, but had him on the bed in his boxer briefs, and when Sharon kind of like straddled him and crawled on top of him in the scene, and she totally like she brushed his wiener. I mean, she had, like, their crotches were their crotches were together for a moment. It was only a brief moment. She like kind of sat on top of him and then rolled over onto the bed, but there was a moment where their crotches totally touched. You can go back and watch it, I swear to you, and I can't help but think, like, Michael Mooney must be a real professional. He must have to think about, like, his grandmother or something during those scenes to not get a Woody. That would be very, very difficult, because men are different from women. And for one thing, I think women have, in general, this is me, okay, I'm just gonna speak for me, have like an emotional attachment in some way to sex, whereas men, I think, are more physical. It's more of just it's a physical thing, and if you touch his wiener, it's probably going to get hard, and I'm surprised that it didn't. Like, it was so, like, wow, I don't know. Sharon totally sat on it. She sat on it. But it was a good scene. I am pretty sure they were doing it in Hope's bed, which is weird. I would hope that Adam would not do her in his mother's bed. That's just weird, but I feel very strongly that that's what happened. And then afterward, he decided to give her his mother's ring. Doesn't want to, it was her engagement ring back when they were married, but doesn't want to get remarried, just wants her to have the ring. I don't know, Adam and Sharon. I think they're good for each other at this point. Adam can't see, he feels lost, and Sharon is being his eyes. And when you think about it, hasn't she kind of always been? She's always kind of been there, being his eyes. And it's nice to see them together, and it was especially nice to see Adam doing things for himself this week, realizing that he can accomplish anything he needs to. So this huge storm blows into Kansas, and the news is on the radio that, oh, it's at every county, it's a major storm. So Sharon decides, I'm gonna go for a drive. I mean, the weather's treacherous, I'm gonna go for a drive. She goes out to get some groceries and leaves Adam at home. And meanwhile, the storm is blowing really, really hard. It's becoming, the wind is whipping around everywhere, and the lights go out, and there's lightning striking, and Adam realizes that the barn is on fire. The barn is on fire, and it's close enough to the house where it could easily burn down the house. It could injure him. And he's blind. He feels totally scared, I think, in that moment, but he was able to just feel his way around, and, you know, also through his memories, he was able to put together a fire hose and put out the fire all on his own. And it was helpless trying to watch him and hoping for him that he was going to be able to accomplish it. And he did, and it was wonderful to see that moment of victory, that moment of validation, that just because he lost his eyesight doesn't mean that he's any less of a human being, that he's any less capable of all of the wonderful things and any of the wonderful things that he wants to do. And Sharon rushes back into the scene, and she's so impressed with him, and she sees him there and realizes that he just put out this fire. He just went into a burning barn blind to save the animals and put out the fire, and she just tells him, I'm so impressed with you. Let's have sex again. Okay, you guys, that is about gonna do it for me. I think I spent way too long talking about Victor and Nikki. I just get caught up, and then I can't stop myself. So, I need to probably just cut myself off. The only other one little tiny thing I want to say is just follow up to Lily and Kane. It was very cute to see them coming home and trying to get it on and having everyone interrupt them every single moment, whether it was a doorbell ringing or a phone call. They just wanted to do it, and it was not happening for them. But it ended up being a really good thing because, yes, finally, Jill had the brilliant idea that now that Genevieve is gone from Jabot, she needs to let Kane become the new wonderful, awesome head of marketing or whatever, her assistant, and she goes and she offers him a job, and I'm so happy to hear that. Kane needed to get out of the bar. He said yes pretty much right away, and I really think this is going to be a good new era for Kane and for Lily as well, and for their relationship. So I'm looking forward to that very much. Looking forward to next week and seeing how everything else continues to pan out. I hope that you guys are enjoying the show and that you leave me a comment to let me know what you're thinking. It's always a pleasure to read them. It's always a pleasure to communicate with you guys. So that's it for this week. Everybody, I love you. Take care. Have an awesome week. Bye.